As I'm going back and forth between the architect, the drafting, and the project manager, I'm moving my card into the Kanban column that it belongs in. So if I'm John, I redid these these submittals, and I'm going to move it back into the PM submittals. So I've uploaded my shop drawings, and Steve can now come in, take this card, and go ahead and submit those shop drawings to the architect for the second time. Let's say they come back and they say they're approved. So if I'm Steve, I will upload them into the project, and I'll move that into the PM job setup. Now that is, and I apologize, I moved the wrong one. So let's go ahead and move the right one. That is Steve's kind of placeholder that he needs to start breaking down the job into the batches or the dashes that we used to call them. So I'm Steve. I'm going to go ahead and click on this project, and I'm going to break them down into work orders. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on budget, and it will show me all of the products that were estimated by Dan, and hopefully we have a whole lot more information in here. Most likely we're going to produce them by room or type of product, so Steve will go through the items one by one and select them, and he'll say, well, this is going to go in a work order. So he'll go ahead and select them, click create work order, and we're going to call this 613 copy room. The type is going to be production. Working days is going to be 3, because that's how long it's going to take us to get through the shop. The planned stage date is March 1st. The ship date, we're actually going to ship on, let's say we're going to ship on March 5th, and the delivery date, it's going to take a day to get there, so it's going to deliver on March 6th. The assignee is always going to be the engineer. The reason for that is so that the person in the plant, if they have any problems, they know who to talk to. That is also going to tell Jeremy and John who is responsible for processing that specific work order. So I'm going to say that John is assigned to it, and the owner is still going to be Steve because he's the project manager. So I'm creating the work order, and now you can see that those items are associated to that work order. The next thing that he's going to do in the project setup stage, he'll go ahead and click on details, and he can either do this, he'll click on work orders. He will open the work order, and he can do this on the Kanban production card, but I find it easiest to do on the workflow for the actual work order. He'll move it to engineering processing, or PM field dimensions if he needs field dimensions. All right. The last thing that he's probably going to do when he is in the process of setting up a job is he will probably work on approvals of materials. So if the shop drawings have been approved, then hopefully it has the architect has selected colors and okayed our hardware choices. So it will be important to go through the project and to approve the materials that we decided that we're going to use. So I will go through here, and for instance, that one I need to replace with the actual color, and the same thing with the edge banding and all the other materials that are project specific. But let's say that I approved all these. I'm going to go to change status, and I'm going to go to approved. I also have the option to come in here and go to swap materials. So let's say the PL1 in our case is actually going to be, let's call it 6875, and we want white liner, cosmic strands. So that is the material that we're going to choose for that. And we would obviously also want the correct edge banding. So we'd go to swap materials. We'd go find, we're going to use that. Oops, I saw cosmic strands, so we're going to use that. We could also move some of these to not needed. So we can say change status, set it to not needed or rejected. We can move some of them to externals, and those are important that we actually get an approval from the customer. So for instance, I put the hinges in here because we need to make sure that we know whether or not we're going to be using soft close or standard self-close hinges. Once we get through all that, we are ready to use materials, but we use them per work order, not per project. However, if Steve needs to, if he sees one of these and decides that it's a long lead time item, now would be the time to go ahead and buy it.